Of the three things that are indispensable for the subsistence of man, namely air, water, and food, the first is the most important. Hence it is that God has created it in such large quantities as to make it available to all of us for nothing. Modern civilization, however, has rendered even fresh air somewhat costly, or in order to breathe fresh air, we have to go out of towns, and this means expense. The residents of Bombay, for instance, distinctly improve in health in the air of Mathurin, or still better, of the Malabar Hills. But they cannot go to these places without money. Hence, in these days, it would hardly be true to say that we get fresh air gratis, as we used to in the old days. But whether fresh air is available gratis or not, it is undeniable that we cannot get on without it. We've already seen that the blood circulates over the body, returns to the lungs, and after being purified, starts its round again. We breathe out the impure air and take in oxygen from the outside, which purifies the blood. This process of inspiration and expiration goes on forever, and on it depends man's life. When drowned in water, we die, because then we are unable to let the impure air in the body and take in pure air from outside. The divers go down into the water in what is known as a diving bell, and they take in fresh air through a tube which leads to the top. Hence it is they are able to remain underwater for a long time. It has been ascertained by experiments that no man can live without air for as long as 5 minutes. We often hear of the death of little children when they are held so close to the bosom by ignorant mothers as to make it impossible for them to breathe. We should all be as much against the breathing of impure air as we are against the drinking of dirty water and the eating of dirty food. But the air we breathe in is, as a rule, far more impure than the water we drink or the food we eat. We are all worshippers of concrete objects. Those things that can be seen and felt are regarded by us as of far greater importance than those which are invisible and intangible. Since air belongs to this latter class of objects, we fail to realize the evil wrought by the impure air that we breathe. We would think twice before eating the leavings of another man's food or drinking out of a cup polluted by another man's lips. Even those who have not the least sense of shame or repugnance would never eat another man's vomit or drink the water which has been spat out by him. Even those who are dying of hunger and thirst would refuse to do that. But alas, how few of us realize that the air we inhale is so often the impure and poisonous air which has been exhaled by others, and which is surely no less objectionable than a man's vomit. How strange that men should sit and sleep together for hours in closed rooms and go on inhaling the deadly air exhaled by themselves and their companions. How fortunate for man that air should be so light and diffusive and capable of penetrating the smallest holes. Even when the doors and windows are closed, there is generally some little space between the walls and the roof, through which some air from outside manages to get in, so that the inmates of the room have not to breathe exclusively poisoned air. The air that we exhale mixes with the air outside and is rendered pure again by an automatic process that is always going on in nature. Now we are able to understand why so many men and women should be weak and diseased. There can be absolutely no doubt that impure air is the root cause of disease in 99 cases out of every 100. It follows that the best way of avoiding disease is to live and work in the open air. No doctor can compete with fresh air in this matter. Consumption is caused by the decay of the lungs due to the inhaling of impure air, just as a steam engine which is filled with bad coal gets out of order. Hence, doctors say that the easiest and the most effective treatment for a consumptive patient is to keep him in fresh air for all the 24 hours of the day. It is, of course, essential to know how we can keep the air pure. In fact, every child should be taught this, the value of fresh air, as soon as it is able to understand anything. If my readers would take the trouble to learn the simple facts about the air, and would put their knowledge into practice, while teaching their children also to do the same, I shall feel immensely gratified. Our latrines are perhaps most responsible for rendering the air impure. Very few people realize the serious harm done by dirty latrines. Even dogs and cats make with their claws something like a pit wherein to deposit their feces and then cover it up with some earth. Where there are no lavatories of the modern approved types, we should also do likewise. There should also be kept ashes or dry earth in a tin can or an earthen vessel inside the latrine, and whoever goes into the latrine should, on coming out, cover the feces well with the ash or the earth, as the case may be. If this is done, there would be no bad smell, and the flies too will not settle on it and transmit the filth. Anybody whose sense of smell has not been wholly blunted, or who has not grown thoroughly accustomed to foul smells, will know how noxious is the smell that emanates from all filthy matter which is allowed to lie open to the weather. Our gorge rises at the very thought of feces being mixed with our food, but we go on inhaling the air which has been polluted by such foul smell, forgetting the fact that the one is just as bad as the other, except that, while the former is visible, the latter is not. We should see that our latrines are kept thoroughly neat and clean. We abhor the idea of cleaning the latrines ourselves, but what we should really abhor is the idea of making use of dirty latrines. What is the harm in ourselves removing the filth which has been expelled from inside our own body, and which we are not ashamed to have removed by others? There is absolutely no reason why we should not ourselves learn the work of scavenging and teach it to our children as well. The filthy matter should be removed and thrown into a pit 2 feet deep, and then covered up with a thick layer of earth. If we go to some open place, we should dig a small pit with our hands or feet, and then cover it up after the bowels have been evacuated. We also make the air impure by making water at all places indiscriminately. This dirty habit should be given up altogether. If there is no place specially set apart for the purpose, we should go to some dry ground away from the house, and should also cover up the urine with earth. The filth should not be cast into very deep pits, for in that case it would be beyond the reach of sun's heat, and would also pollute the water flowing underneath the earth. The habit of spitting indiscriminately on the verandas, courtyards, and such like places is also very bad. The spittle, especially of consumptives, is very dangerous. The poisonous germs in it rise into the air, and being inhaled by others, lead to a spread of the disease. We should keep a spittoon inside the house, and if we have to spit when out on the road, we should spit where there is dry dust, so that the spittle may be absorbed into the dust and cause no harm. Doctors hold that the consumptive should spit into a spittoon with some disinfectant in it, or even if he spits on dry ground, the germs in his spittle manage to rise and even spread into the air along with the dust. But in any case, there can be no doubt that the habit of spitting wherever we please is dirty as well as dangerous. Some people throw where they like cooked food and other articles which decay and render the air impure. If all such rubbish be put underground, the air would not be made impure, and good manure, too, could be obtained. In fact, no kind of decaying matter should be allowed to lie exposed to the air. It is so easy for us to take this necessary precaution, if only we are earnest about it. Now we have seen how our own bad habits render the air impure, and what we can do to keep it pure. Next we shall consider how to inhale the air.